speed. If ever there were a time for parents to be put in charge, it's now. We're not talking about book bans or cultural warfare, but about the basics. Who decides? Who's in charge? How does a child who can't sit still get educated if they're expected to operate like, well, an average person? Who's average? What's the key to making fundamental change on the state and national level? And how can we ensure parents are ready to lead? So, joining me to talk about this are Families Empowered founder and director Colleen Dippel. We have Jumoke Academy Charter Schools, Dr. Troy Monroe, Hartford. So we have Texas, Connecticut, Florida, Freedom Institute of Collier County's Christopher Marker, and Mobile, Alabama, reporting in, Portia Green, Prichard Prep School. Welcome. All of these folks represent a different approach to education. All of them were focused when they started or became part of their organization on putting parents back in charge. So I'm going to start with you, Colleen. Let's give a definition. What's parent power?
Well, can you hear me? It's not a hard question for me because the organization that I founded and run is called Families Empowered, and we provide free bilingual education advisory services to families every year for the last 15 years who are looking for schools that work for them, in bold and underlined, for them. Parents are our customers, so we are not starting schools. We are ensuring that parents have information that is accurate, actionable, and unbiased as they look for schools. We've served over 108,000 families in Texas. So we listen every day to parents, and 60% of the parents we serve choose Spanish as their first language, right? So this is what it means to us. We start with a belief that all parents love their children, right? And that they have their best interest at heart, and that they are capable of making good decisions on behalf of their children, right? So schools are about kids, but kids don't belong to the state and they don't belong to schools. They are part of families and they have parents. And anybody who has children knows that parents love their children. I'm just sorry, I'm a former teacher. I am a former teacher. I was married to a principal and superintendent. Parents love their children more than anyone. So we trust parents. Empowering parents means you trust them and you do not put your thumb on the scale of what is best for them. You give them schools that are diverse and meet different needs, and you allow them to have the tools and the resources and the opportunity to choose what is best.
So Portia, let's bring you in here. Many people over time have said to people in this room, to myself, I've heard it on commenting on television, I've heard it in the media, but come on, parents can't possibly be empowered about their kids. What do they know about education? How do you answer that?
Absolutely. I think just putting the pot back into parent power. Parent power is when parents have access to knowledge and information. And I think of myself going back with my journey at Prichard Prep. I started off as a parent, where my daughter, we wanted a quality, affordable education for her. And giving parents power is not only just serving them as the educator, as the teacher, as the head of school, but do we really know who our parents are? Do we know where they live? Have we ever got on a bus and to go around and ride around to see where they live? When these students are coming in the door, have they had anything to eat? Getting to really know these parents and who they are, but also giving parents access to let them know that they are stakeholders. They are the ones, this is your investment, and educating the parent also, but not just the child. I'm a parent and I'm a mom also. So I didn't just walk in that school just to register my child. I wanted to know, what are they doing? What does the curriculum look like? Who are these teachers? And so I believe it is our reasonable service, not only just to educate the student, but to meet the parents where they are. For example, I think in Mobile, Alabama, and Alabama altogether, football is always at the top of the list. And we always celebrate Alabama and Auburn, where our students get to dress out and wear their different jerseys. But one of my parents, I said, we need to have an HBCU day, because where our students, we serve Black students. And a lot of these students had never heard of any of these HBCUs there. And one of our parents peeked out of the window in carpool and said, Mrs. Green, what is an HBCU? And that was a generation, that was a grandmother. So the grandmother didn't know, her child didn't know. So this was a third generation student that we were educating to let them know what a HBCU was, but also educating the grandparents. So it's access to knowledge, to answer your question. We have to empower the parents to give them that access so they can know what is best for their child and not just the institution itself.
Thank you, Portia. Christopher, you are in a state, unlike your neighbors on either side of you, that embraces the notion fully, more than any other state in the country, Florida, that parents should be given the choice to send their child to any school or craft and cater the education to their kids. Talk about how parent power played a role in getting to that point and what you see every day in your work, which is largely kind of independent, online, homeschool, very diverse and different approaches.
Everything you just said and everything I've heard today and since started this journey, I feel guilty because I live in Florida. So the challenges that you guys are undergoing, I've blindly been in a state that's fixed it all. Not that there's not room to go. We got to listen to Governor Jeb Bush some weeks back, and I became a Florida resident about the time he became our governor. I was also a public educator, and he was the bad guy back then. And he wasn't really the bad guy. I had been indoctrinated by public education unions and whatnot to believe a certain way, where he was basically beginning the process of dollars following the students. So come full circle, Governor DeSantis signed into law last summer the PEP program, Personalized Educational Plan, that allowed homeschool dollars, their tax dollars, parents to choose and pay for their homeschool expenses. So what a full circle ride that had been. Even though I had been an administrator for 20 years in public education and saw some of the incredible things that can be done with great teachers, great classrooms, great learning environments, I chose to homeschool my own son. I wish some of these laws would have been in place then, because it would have saved me about $120,000 that we didn't get as we homeschooled. But I would stand up for some of the past folks that mentioned, don't question parents and their power over a child's education. We all love kids, or we wouldn't be in this room. We believe in their development. We see a better future in their genius than what we've created. We teach them what we've done, good and bad, so they can learn from it and create with their brilliance something better. We all love our kids in our schools and in our programs, but we don't love them like we love our own kids. So embracing the families and making them a part of that partnership is a much more powerful outcome than an educator can do alone. However, parents are blind to a lot of the educational opportunities that exist in states and in governments, from career training to college opportunities. The state of Florida basically, and I'm telling you what, move there if you have kids that want to go to college and you don't want to pay for it, because the state of Florida will give your kid a college degree for free if you know how to manage the opportunities that are out there. Come to Florida and you can pick what schools your kids go to, including private, and the state will pay for it. They're not paying for it, it's your tax dollars, but you get to pick where they go. Again, I feel guilty. I'm telling you, you want your legislators to look at Florida and copy what they're doing, because it works. I'm providing a superior high school education based on outcomes of straight into career, straight into college, with economic freedom for all of our kids. My kids are coming out making money, not owing money, and it's free. The state is paying for their full tuition at our private nonprofit. And it's a lot cheaper than what we're paying the public ed FTE, the full-time equivalencies. We still need help with capital monies. I mean, that was mentioned in the last panel. You know, we need buildings. And they're out there. We just got to figure out how the angels and the state dollars can help us there a little bit too. But hope I answered that. But again, I am sorry I live in Florida. It's amazing.
So Troy, you are the leader of one of the first charter schools in Connecticut, a state that has a charter school law that CER ranks at the bottom of the nation in terms of funding, operational autonomy. Dr. Steve Perry operates in the same state. You are serving 99% of your kids are poor, African American, one-parent homes. You're doing better than Hartford Public Schools by every single measure. So how is it that parents are picking your school? How do they know? And why aren't they in the streets being that powerful force for more and to change those laws so that more of your schools can start?
Well, first and foremost, I think that parents are picking our schools because of we are a great alternative to what exists, first and foremost. We offer culture, we offer climate, we offer achievement. These are things that they desire for their children. They desire to have these same opportunities right in the communities where they reside. They shouldn't have to go out to the suburban towns. They shouldn't have to be bused for an hour, 45 minutes and such, just to get a quality education in their own backyard. So they know this. And as a result, they are talking to each other. They're talking to us. We are being advocates and proactive in our communities, hosting events where parents are coming to learn about what it is that we have which will support your child's success. And so we take a very proactive stance with that. Along with my leadership team and my staff, we are out in our schools, hosting community events, hosting parent association events, where we are getting the message out, getting the word out about what we have to offer. And I think that one of the greatest assets that we have are our parents. Parents talk to parents. Parents tell other parents. We have a heavy population from the islands, one notable island, Jamaica. And I often ask, are we recruiting in Jamaica? Because the word is traveling, okay? It's traveling to Jamaica, and they're coming back. And we're not exclusively Jamaican. We have scholars from many islands, but they're coming back. And so when we have that kind of advocacy, it works, and it's working for us. It's parents talking to parents for what is in the best interest of their children. And we appreciate that, and we embrace it.
So let's talk a little bit about that legislative process that gets you all looking a little bit more like Florida in terms of full funding and fairness, not that we're really near close to full funding yet. And Colleen, you know, I'm going to start with you, and I need to read you this quote. I don't know how many of you, I know some of you, but I don't know how many of you caught this comment by, excuse me, MSNBC commentator Chuck Todd the other day, right after the election. But it struck me for two reasons. One is, years ago, we were at a board meeting for our organization, and I had a board member actually say, when I was talking about parent power, and we put out the Parent Power Index, and this is not a bold-faced promotion, but it is, parentpowerindex.edreform.com. Anyway, Parent Power Index, and she's like, why are you spending so much time on parents? You should be spending time on legislators and governors. And I was like, because parents communicate the work. And there was a period of time that nobody really put that much work into parents, except for those of you recruiting and talking with parents, right? So I found this so interesting that some 20 years later, this is all anybody's talking about. So here's Chuck Todd. And there's one issue in particular that Republicans align more closely with Latino voters on, or rather, Latino voters align more closely with them, and that's school choice. Both Florida and Texas have been aggressive in expanding school choice, and where have Republicans made the greatest gains among Hispanic voters? Florida and Texas. So education, the economy, those bread and butter issues. So this is not to wax partisan, but let's be honest. You're in a state that the governor went all out to try to elect new legislators. He fought people of his own party. Many times there are Republicans in office in most states that don't want to support this kind of stuff, just like some states there are Democrats that do. So this isn't entirely partisan. But was this a wake-up call? Finally, someone, sorry Chuck Todd, MSNBC, like, dude, this has been happening for a long time, right? Yeah. What did you see with those Latino parents that you serve?
So again, I'm just going to reiterate, we've served over 108,000 parents. The majority of our parents live on $50,000 a year or less. So school choice is not controversial among regular, everyday, normie, regular parents, right? And people trust people, not institutions, to your point, right? So, and I don't know that those people get captured in polls, but you sort of, I'm going to read you a quote from, this is why I brought this up here, because I'm not as good at memorizing in my middle age as I was before. This is a quote from our governor on X, right? So he said, he was in Tyler, this is the day after the election. I'm in Tyler today to highlight the growing support for school choice in the state. Parents know their kids better than anyone, and they want to put them on the best path to success. With last night's election result, we can provide school choice for every Texan. So here's what happened. I'm not a political wonk. I'm not a pollster. This isn't what I do for a living. We've been listening to people for 15 years. This is not surprising to anybody who has been listening to parents. For people who listen to, like, I don't know, hipsters or their own self in their echo chamber, I think they're shocked. They woke up on, an election night and the next day just shocked. In the state of Texas, our governor crisscrossed the state, put his own political capital and financial capital on the line on this issue. And nine incumbents in the Republican Party lost their seat. 5 retired knowing what was coming. We had 21 Republicans who opposed school choice. We now have 7. So guess what? We have a whip count. And we are going to pass an ESA policy that will be clean. It will empower parents. It will empower new schools. It will provide education entrepreneurs with the resources they need. And it was a winner. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than people who chose not to listen to parents made a very big mistake in our state. So I actually think we're also going to end up with Democrats who are going to support the ESA in our state 100%, because it will benefit their communities, it will benefit their kids, and this is going to pass, and they want to be a part of it. So I have very high hopes for Texas. But yeah, I mean, the punditry the next day was slightly irritating because, as we all know, it was said before, K-12 wasn't discussed at all, I think, at the national level. But I'm here to tell you it was a big winner at the state level in my state.
Well, let's just be honest, right? You have Bill Clinton, we have his former policy advisor coming later today, promised to open more than 3,000 charter schools across the country, and he helped create a program that did. We have the late Senator Joe Lieberman from Connecticut, Democrat, who led the fight for school options in D.C. and was a charter pioneer. Troy, talk to us about that partisanship, if you will, and what you see in Connecticut, and then how do parents view that?
So in Connecticut, we see public school choice as a priority for our state. We recognize, I think it is a partisan issue, but we recognize that parents want school choice in Connecticut. So as a result, we have many school choice options in the state of Connecticut. However, when you look at those choices that are available for our parents, we have to also factor in the inequities of funding school choice options for children.
Give us the numbers. Give us the numbers. Hartford Public Schools versus Jumoke Public Charter School gets what?
So we get roughly half of what Hartford Public Schools gets. So we get about $11,525 compared to about $21,000. Okay.
So just let that sit in.
Let that marinate. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. So in our state, we have come up with an educational cost sharing formula. However, we're trying to figure out at a state level, how do you rework that formula so that charters get an equal share of those resources? And so they have worked out a formula, and you take what you can get in the moment, but you continue to fight. As a matter of fact, Vice President Harris reminded us of that. You continue to fight. It's not over, right? And so we recognize that our parents need to understand this so that they can also come to the table to help us fight, to help us advocate. And so it's our job, and it's my job, and other leaders' jobs to make sure that our parents and our community are aware of what's happening on this landscape so that we can have a voice in this fight to support our schools for our children.
So let me bring you in, Portia, on this conversation. You're in Mobile, Alabama. Alabama was never the leader in any of this stuff, but you have been creeping up slowly but surely in recognizing parents in communities in particular, like yours, Montgomery, that need and want options. What happened? Give us the instructive, what happened that turned the tables in a state like so many in the South that were just kind of left off the table for these kinds of discussions and challenges?
Absolutely. Alabama always seems to lag behind in all states. But bringing it back to the table of parent power, parents wanted an option. They wanted something different for their students. And when you look at Mobile, Alabama, Mobile has the largest school system in the state of Alabama, and it is the oldest school system in the state of Alabama. So most children that live there in that area go to Mobile County Public School System, which is an incredible school system. However, all of us, we just spoke earlier about how all of us are different. We learn differently. And as a parent, you know, and you can access and look at your child to see what is best for your child. Just because a school is there doesn't mean you need to send your child there. And so it's critical for the ESA bill to be passed for students, for parents to have an option. And I look at students who are in poverty-stricken areas where we serve students, but also students who are in rural areas. I'm a rural area girl. I call myself back home a red dirt road girl. And all of this was never an option. There was one school there, elementary, middle, and high, and those were the schools that we attended. So just parents having a voice and wanting options, we had to push. I believe it's 19 charter schools in the state of Alabama. So just lagging behind and just hearing that this is an option, that we can educate our students in a different perspective, and that this is not the only choice. And the ESA bill, I mean, it's been tremendous where parents can have a choice to go to a different school, to have an alternative, and just to have an option as well.
Do you know what the status of that bill is now? You had a governor who came out and expanded it last year.
Absolutely.
And said that she was going to continue moving it forward. Is there hope for Alabama parents to have more power in the coming months?
Actually, as of November 5th, I sit on the board of AISA, Alabama Independent School Association. Just got an email yesterday. I haven't read through it all together, but there is hope for parents in the state of Alabama where that bill has passed, and there will be funds provided to parents who can attend different schools throughout the state of their choice. I believe the application process will begin January the 2nd. So that is great news for students who may be zoned for a failing school and don't have a choice, but that's great news for parents to have hope. I am a parent and a mom of 3, and nothing just does my heart well done to know that I can have a say, I have a choice in where my children can attend school. And parents don't care about all the red tape with going with policies, and they want to know, what can I do, who can help me, and what school is the best school for my child, and not seeing a school across town that you spoke of earlier, Dr. Monroe, but also what school is in this area that I can send my child to. And that's part of how Prichard Prep was established, where the founder originally, there was a school across town, and it was predominantly white, and she was in Prichard, Alabama, and she wanted her grandsons to have a quality, affordable education. Schools like that did not exist in Prichard, Alabama, where you look at the education rate in Alabama in that area, as for the whole state is about 13%. In Prichard, it dropped down to below 6%, where there were people who had college educations. And so schools like that are needed. Bills like this pass for parents to have a say, and an option is needed, and there is hope for parents.
That's great. Christopher, talk to us about the how parents view your schools like yours throughout Florida, your sense of the landscape in general when it comes to why they're coming there. There's a lot of commentary out there about that parents just want choices because of culture wars, because of books in the classroom. Is that true?
What I see is a different story for every student and family, and they range the gambit. They are coming to something better than what they left for their child, and that's not to be critical of the factory schools, and that's the term I use, and I guess that is critical. You know, we built it for World War I. It became a $1 trillion industry, and now we've brainwashed everybody that's the way to do it, and we can't get out of it. Well, we are getting out of it slowly and surely with efforts like this. I've got kids coming out of situations where they were bullied in a 2,000-student school where there's not an adult there that knows their name. They may know their test score when they come into their class for 47 minutes and leave as they cycle through. And they come to us and they develop a teacher relationship again. There's adults in their lives supervising them. We're undoing that whole, another K-12, I think, especially in secondary, where we tell families, your kid doesn't want you around, so when you call us and want a student conference, you want to talk to an administrator, we're not available because your kid doesn't want you here. Kids want us in their lives. They want us to protect them. They're not grown-ups yet. We need to be there in the dark hallways. We need to help scaffold their decision-making until they are 18 and can go off. We cut them loose too soon. So that's one story. I have kids that are brilliant academically. They want to be the rocket scientists, and they're going to be. And they're sick and tired of the inefficiency of the warehouse model, where they have to take these classes all day on a schedule like every other kid that has their test score to this end. They don't need all of that. I go back to my own son in high school. He rebelled against language arts. Not that there's anything wrong with language arts. I love reading and writing. But he could do both very well, and he wanted to be an engineer. And he's like, Dad, why do I have to read 6 classical novels and write 3-page essays on each one through the year? Couldn't really give him an answer. So we cut out of that, gave him a little bit heavier tech, science, and math classes. 4 years engineer, he's building runways in Florida. So build it on their genius and build it on their strengths. I've got several students that when they get out of that giant jungle of big high schools that are coming off of ADHD medication, that are coming off of anti-anxiety medication, because it's an intimate school program built around their strengths and abilities as opposed to making them fit into the holes that the big schools make.
Troy, did COVID have an impact on the way parents think about change, school change, options? Again, that traditional environment just feels good. It feels comfortable. Oh my gosh, my kids are getting ready to school. Thank God there's something down the street they can go to. Like, it's anxiety to think about having to make a choice. I would think for a lot of people who didn't grow up that way, but then COVID happened.
I think COVID certainly put parents in a position to better appreciate what exists in our community and what exists for their children. I think that from our perspective as leaders in education, our parents had a greater faith in the fact that we are delivering on what we are supposed to deliver for their children. They have great faith in our ability to put children's lives in the forefront and to make sure that we are providing them and equipping them with the skills and the resources and the experiences and enrichment opportunities that they just could not necessarily provide themselves because of COVID, because of the pandemic. So I think if anything, it's increased their faith in what our charter school options offer them.
All right, Colleen, bring us home. Do you, I'd love you to comment on the COVID question and then just sort of in general, where you see the potential for more parental power, advocacy, and influence on the new policymakers in America come 2025.
Yeah, so I'll just plus one on the COVID question. So my organization, we grew by 20% in COVID, during COVID. I mean, and I'll just also say that in Texas, there are more children homeschooling now than in charter and private schools combined. And when you look at the data, COVID is the definitive time when that happened. So that's significant. So what do I see as the future? I just want to say it wasn't discussed. I said it before. I think at all really in the national election, with the exception of J.D. Vance. Thank you very much for that. K-12 education is a bread and butter issue for parents and grandparents. I will say it again. K-12 school choice is a bread and butter issue for parents and grandparents. It is a winner. I think that Texas ought to be looked at as a case study, that when you're standing on the side of parent empowerment, you win. You win. So I would love to see other states. First off, we in Texas, looking forward, we need to pass an ESA. There's been a mandate by parents to do that, and we're going to do it. And I hope that other states feel optimistic looking at Texas as a blueprint for how to do that.
It's great. Colleen, Troy, Christopher, Portia, thank you so much. Put the pop back in parent power. We're going. All right.